At 91 years old, Shirley MacLaine has become something far greater than just a Hollywood legend. She's living proof of what it means to survive, evolve, and hold on to grace when everything else fades away. From dazzling audiences in The Apartment in terms of endearment, to standing up for what she believed in, even when the world called her difficult, MacLaine's life has been a mix of brilliance, heartbreak, and fierce independence. But behind the laughter, the awards, and the bright lights of her long career, there's a side to Shirley few have ever seen. Her once glamorous Hollywood lifestyle came with a heavy cost, loneliness, betrayal, and a constant struggle to find meaning beyond fame. Her unconventional beliefs in reincarnation and the spirit world made her both adored and ridiculed by the public. Yet she never backed down. Now, as she approaches the twilight of her remarkable life, the truth about her struggles, regrets, and what keeps her going at 91 has left fans deeply emotional. From her quiet days in New Mexico to her heartbreaking reflections on love lost and friendships gone, Shirley's story is not just about a star, it's about a woman who refused to let Hollywood define her soul. This is the untold story of Shirley MacLaine's later years, the pain she endured, the wisdom she gained, and the shocking truth about what she's facing today. Try not to cry when you hear what really happened to this extraordinary woman who once ruled the silver screen and still, even now, refuses to fade quietly into the background. In the 1950s, Shirley MacLaine's rise to fame was nothing short of meteoric. With her fiery red hair, witty charm, and undeniable confidence, she quickly became one of Hollywood's most fascinating leading ladies. At a time when women were expected to play it safe, Shirley broke the mold completely. She was bold, outspoken, and utterly unapologetic, and the world couldn't take its eyes off her. Her big break came when she was discovered by producer Hal B. Wallace after stepping in for an injured Carol Haney in a Broadway performance of The Pajama Game. Within weeks, Hollywood came calling, and soon she found herself working alongside legends like Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and Jack Lemmon. Films like Some Came Running, Irma La Douce, and The Apartment turned her into a household name. Her performances were raw, real, and bursting with emotion, something rare in an era of perfect smiles and studio-polished stars. But behind that confidence, Shirley was quietly fighting to be taken seriously in a male-dominated industry. While the press loved to call her feisty or eccentric, she was a woman with depth and ambition. She didn't just want fame, she wanted freedom. She wanted to tell stories that mattered, to be more than just another face on the screen. Her talent earned her 5 Academy Award nominations, and finally, in 1984, she won the Oscar for Terms of Endearment. Yet, even as success surrounded her, Shirley often felt isolated. Hollywood adored her talent but criticized her spirit. She wasn't afraid to challenge directors, question scripts, or speak openly about spirituality, something that made her both a media sensation and a target for mockery. She once said, "I never wanted to fit in. I wanted to stand out." And that came with a price. While others chased fame, Shirley chased truth. She explored life's bigger questions about love, energy, reincarnation, and destiny. She even wrote books on her spiritual experiences, something unheard of for an A-list actress at the time. Critics called her strange. Fans called her brave. And through it all, she never once apologized for being herself. By the 1970s, MacLaine had become a symbol of independence, a woman who lived by her own rules in a world designed to tame her. She balanced blockbuster success with deep self-reflection, and though the tabloids often painted her as eccentric, her close friends described her as deeply insightful, loyal, and quietly sensitive. The bright lights of fame never blinded Shirley to what truly mattered. She once said, "Fame is the rent you pay for living in the hearts of others." But as the years went by, that rent became more difficult to afford. Hollywood was changing, youth was replacing experience, and soon the woman who once ruled the silver screen found herself facing the cruel reality of age in an industry obsessed with beauty and youth. Still, Shirley never bowed out quietly. She embraced every wrinkle, every memory, and every lesson. But as time moved on, her once busy schedule slowed, and whispers began to spread. Where was Shirley MacLaine now? Little did the world know she had retreated into solitude, far away from the flashing cameras, choosing peace over spotlight, a decision that carried both healing and heartbreak. When the cameras finally stopped rolling, Shirley MacLaine didn't fade, she transformed. While many of her peers clung desperately to the limelight, Shirley turned away from it with quiet defiance. She had spent decades playing characters crafted by others, and now, for the first time, she wanted to live as herself, unfiltered, unhurried, and far away from the noise of Hollywood. She settled in the quiet beauty of Santa Fe, New Mexico, on a sprawling ranch surrounded by open skies and ancient desert energy. It was a place of stillness, where she could finally hear her own thoughts. There, Shirley spent her mornings walking among the mountains, writing her reflections, and reconnecting with the spiritual beliefs that had always guided her life. To her, the universe wasn't a mystery to solve, but a conversation to join. Her passion for spirituality wasn't new. It had always been at the heart of who she was. But now, with time slowing and fame fading, it became her sanctuary. She had long believed in reincarnation and the power of energy, and she often said that our souls carry memories beyond a single lifetime. While Hollywood laughed, she smiled. "They called me crazy," she once said, "but I'd rather be crazy and free than sane and trapped." Her books, Out on a Limb and Dancing in the Light, gave fans a glimpse into the mind of a woman unafraid to explore beyond the ordinary. They were more than memoirs. They were roadmaps to self-discovery, and millions connected to her message of inner truth. But peace didn't erase the pain. Shirley faced the reality of aging in a world that once adored her for her youth and beauty. Friends and co-stars passed away one by one, and the once bustling sets and glamorous parties gave way to quiet nights alone under the desert stars. She missed them, the laughter, the chaos, the feeling of belonging to something larger than herself. Yet she also knew that everything in life had a season, and hers had been richer than most. There were also regrets. Shirley often spoke candidly about her relationships, the loves that burned bright but couldn't last. Her marriage to producer Steve Parker ended in 1982, after years of distance and emotional strain. Still, she never allowed bitterness to define her. "We lived, we loved, and we learned," she said softly in one interview. That's all any soul can hope for. Her daughter, Sachi Parker, became both her greatest joy and greatest heartache. Their relationship was complicated, strained by years of separation during Sachi's childhood. Though their bond suffered, Shirley's love never wavered. She often described motherhood as her most spiritual challenge, one that taught her more about forgiveness than any guru or philosophy ever could. By her 80s, Shirley had withdrawn almost completely from Hollywood, appearing only occasionally in interviews or rare film roles. When she did, her humor was still sharp, her eyes still bright, and her words filled with wisdom that only a life fully lived could bring. "People think getting old is sad," she once said, "but it's a privilege denied to many." Now, at 91, her world is smaller but far more peaceful. She spends her days writing, meditating, and tending to her beloved dogs. The crowds are gone, but her purpose remains: to keep learning, keep loving, and keep laughing, even when the world stops watching, for decades. Shirley MacLaine had been Hollywood's free spirit, funny, fearless, and impossible to ignore. But behind that radiant smile and razor-sharp wit was a woman who carried more heartbreak than most people ever knew. Beneath the laughter that filled film sets and the charm that lit up red carpets, there was pain, the kind that comes from love lost, friendships faded, and time's unrelenting march. Shirley had always been honest about her emotions. She didn't hide behind a facade of perfection like many of her peers. "I've been lonely," she once confessed in an interview. "Even surrounded by people, fame can make you feel like you're living in a glass box, visible but untouchable." Her early years in Hollywood had been thrilling, but brutal. She had seen the industry at its most glamorous and its most cruel. Executives tried to control her image, critics dissected her every word, and male co-stars sometimes underestimated her because of her gender. Yet she never bowed to any of it. Her strength was her armor, but even armor can get heavy. after a lifetime of battle. Her personal life was no less complex. Shirley's marriage to Steve Parker was unconventional. They lived largely separate lives, each pursuing their own paths. While it allowed her the freedom she craved, it also left her with an ache that never fully healed. Love, for Shirley, was always a paradox, something she deeply believed in but never managed to hold on to. Then there was her daughter, Sachi. Their strained relationship was one of Shirley's greatest emotional burdens. While Sachi spoke publicly about the challenges of growing up away from her mother, Shirley often responded with compassion rather than anger. "I made mistakes," she admitted. "But every decision I made came from love, even when it didn't look like it." The distance between them was painful, but Shirley held on to hope that time and understanding would eventually heal old wounds. By her later years, she had outlived many of her closest friends, Jack Lemmon, Debbie Reynolds, and her beloved brother, Warren Beatty, with whom she shared both affection and rivalry. Each loss chipped away at her heart, reminding her that even stars must face the same fate as everyone else. "The hardest part of getting old," she once said softly, "is saying goodbye again and again." Despite all this, Shirley never allowed sorrow to define her. Her spirituality became her refuge. She often described her pain as part of the soul's evolution, believing that every heartbreak was meant to teach compassion and perspective. While others crumbled under the weight of fame and regret, she found light in the darkness, a reason to keep going. Yet, those who know her best say that in her quietest moments, the sadness still lingers. Sometimes she sits on her porch in Santa Fe watching the sunset, speaking to the universe as if it's an old friend. She laughs, she reminisces, and sometimes she cries. "Every soul I've loved is still with me," she once said. "Energy never dies. It just changes form." That belief, in life beyond life, in love beyond loss, is what has kept her spirit alive at 91. The pain behind her smile is real, but so is the strength that carries it. And as she faces the twilight of her life, Shirley MacLaine continues to remind the world that true beauty isn't found in perfection, but in survival, in the courage to keep shining, even after the lights go out. Today at 91, Shirley MacLaine's legacy stands as one of the most extraordinary in Hollywood history, not just for her talent, but for her courage to live authentically in a world that demanded conformity. She wasn't just an actress. She was a thinker, a rebel, and a seeker of truth. The world remembers her for her unforgettable performances. But those who truly understand her know her greatest role has always been herself. In a career spanning over 7 decades, Shirley refused to be boxed in. She defied stereotypes, choosing complex, emotionally charged characters when others sought glamour. She could be hilarious one moment and heartbreakingly vulnerable the next. Whether in The Apartment, Sweet Charity, or Terms of Endearment, she gave her characters more than lines. She gave them life. Her acting wasn't performance. It was revelation. But perhaps her most daring act was the way she lived beyond the screen. When she began writing about her beliefs in reincarnation, energy, and past lives, many in Hollywood mocked her. Some late-night hosts turned her name into a punchline. Yet Shirley didn't flinch. "I've been laughed at before," she said with a grin. "It's better than being ignored." Over time, the world caught up to her. What was once seen as strange became part of mainstream spiritual conversation. And Shirley, as always, had been decades ahead of her time. Her fearlessness inspired countless younger artists who came after her. Actresses like Meryl Streep, Susan Sarandon, and even Nicole Kidman have cited her as a trailblazer, a woman who showed that aging, thinking differently, and speaking truthfully were not weaknesses, but superpowers. Despite her independence, Shirley's later years have been deeply reflective. She speaks often of gratitude for her body, her career, her daughter, and the lessons she's learned. She's no longer chasing accolades or applause. "I don't need anyone to tell me who I am," she once said. "I've already met myself, and I like her just fine." She now spends her days on her New Mexico ranch, surrounded by her dogs, books, and the boundless desert sky. Visitors describe her as serene, her laugh still rich and mischievous, her spirit unbroken. She walks among her garden, tends to her animals, and gazes at the stars she believes she's lived under many times before. We're all just passing through, she says softly. This life is one chapter of a much bigger story. In her old age, she has found peace, a peace she never found in fame or fortune. It's not the kind that comes from applause, but from understanding that everything, love, loss, fame, failure, happens for a reason. And perhaps that's the final lesson Shirley MacLaine offers us all, that true success is not what the world gives you, but what you learn from it. Her story is both inspiring and heartbreaking, a reminder that even the brightest stars must one day dim, but their light never truly disappears. Shirley's journey from Hollywood's golden girl to wise mystic has shown the world that life isn't about staying young forever, but about growing wiser, softer, and braver with time. As she nears the end of her remarkable journey, Shirley MacLaine remains a beacon, a woman who lived her truth without fear, who loved without regret, and who taught millions that the spirit never ages. And as the sun sets on her long, beautiful life, one can't help but whisper a silent thank you for the lessons, the laughter, and the legacy of a truly fearless soul.